My bachelor party was hysterical because it was all like 40-year-old men and then like a couple kids from high school that I went to. And so the one guy had to pee. So he like jumped out of the limo, ran around back, peed by the dumpster. And the rest of us are still piling out of the Humvee. And all of a sudden, this woman that looked like Large Marge from Pee-wee goes out, "Where is he?" And she apparently caught him on the cameras. And she's like, "Where is the pisser?" Hey, man, thank you for coming. This is going to be a shock to the Jaywalking viewer nation.
Sure. Anytime I show up to the wholesome audience of Jay Yoder, it always kind of seems like a shock.
Yeah, what's the joke you used to say? You look like if Jay Yoder owned a Harley.
Yeah, if you had made some bad choices and instead of a loving family, you just bought a motorcycle. I believe that's how I introduce myself. Sometimes I say I'm evil Jay Yoder.
Evil Jay Yoder. That was it. Because Jim Gillespie says he's gay Jay Yoder.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's perfect.
It
should just do a whole Jay Yoder show.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gay Yoder. Because I always say he's the son I never knew I didn't want. Yeah. Well, I did. So Dan DePriel's in the house with me. Yeah, dude, I'm pumped that you came because I've been doing it solo for a while. And, I like to just talk. And I was like, I want to bring someone on that I just talk to. And, you and I usually meet up at a coffee shop.
That's right.
And pitch jokes and do stuff like that. And I just thought it would be a good time. Because, I think too, I think friends in adulthood, they always say are like harder to come by. And I will say that you and I met at a very unique part of my life when I was switching trails. And I think up to that point in my life, the only people, my whole wedding party at that point was all teachers.
Okay.
Because that's really what
you associate with the people you work with in the industry that you're in.
And and when you're a teacher, you spend your whole life there. Even, you're working 7 to 3, but then you're coaching, you're chaperoning, you're doing all the things. And then it's that's where your whole friend base is. And now my whole life has done in a complete 180.
Yeah.
And you remember the first time we met?
I think I made fun of you at an open mic for wearing a NASA shirt, if I remember correctly.
Because you were wearing a NASA hat.
Yeah, and then I said something to the degree of, just a complete riff, it was like, why is it that you only ever see guys wearing NASA gear who would never be let into NASA? You and me are payload problems.
Yeah.
Why would we ever be allowed on the space shuttle? We're 4 scientists that can't be on the shuttle. It wouldn't make any sense, and yet we're the only guys on the block in NASA stuff.
Yeah, we just want to feel what weightless feels like. It's what is this zero gravity?
Yeah, 0 G's because I'm over 250 right now, and that's a problem for me. It's a big
I remember
problem.
going to everybody I think goes to the planetarium when you're a kid at some field trip, and I just remember the only thing I ever wanted to buy in the gift shop was astronaut food. It's astronaut pizza. I was sign me up, food. Let's do it.
That's hilarious. My dad would never, notoriously cheap, he would never buy me the astronaut food. He's like, that's a ripoff. There's so many other better things that you can get. It's all overpriced, but get something that'll last. And then when I was an adult, I finally went to a museum and they had astronaut food. I was so excited. I got it and I was like, oh.
Was it trash?
I was like, oh, this is chalky. Not. My dad was right. This is a ripoff.
I hate when that. So in 3rd grade, I'd switched schools so much, and so in 3rd grade, I'd switched to this new school. And at lunch, trying to make new friends, there was a group of kids that sat together at the same table, but they called themselves the Jordan Tears.
Okay.
Because they had Air Jordans.
Oh man!
And,
so
this was classic 1993. You know what I mean? And we, they were $100. There were no way my parents were going to get me. Actually, we knew someone who was in the military and they were stationed in Taiwan. So I guess you can just steal them off of 9-year-olds making them or whatever over there.
Sure. You're getting them fresh out of the bakery right there. Yeah.
So all my hopes were on this half connection they had who might bring them home from Taiwan so I could sit at the table. Never happened. I had my Kmart sneakers with the purple basketball on the side.
Right.
And then finally I got my first teaching job. Got my first paycheck. I went over to the Nike outlets in Limerick and I bought my first pair of Air Jordans. What a disappointment.
Did the kids give you the what are those?
Yeah, right, totally.
Yeah.
I went back to the lunchroom table where I was at. The school was closed down. Nobody was there, but I'm sitting at this table. I'm sitting at this table.
You're finally part of the Jordan crew, the Tier Jordan crew.
And now that building's been completely bulldozed. It was like one of those old school classic big Catholic CYC kind of buildings where the first was the gymnasium. So like really the first 2 or 3 stories were just the gym.
Oh, wow.
And then
Okay.
it was like the classrooms were like the next 3 floors above it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, all Catholic schools are not what they used to be. So they're all consolidating.
No, whatever happened, it's almost as like Catholicism and children kind of had like a rupture at some point,
They were
Seems like they used to be really close and now they're not so close. I don't really follow the news.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm not a big news follower. I will say I was an altar boy, not so much a pat on the ass. That's why I got more action from my little league coach. So.
You got some good jokes about that. You
Yeah.
definitely have some good jokes about growing up in Catholic
Oh
school.
my gosh, yeah. But no, that's so. I don't know. I think there's something about every time I think of something somebody told me wasn't going to be what it was, and it turned out they were right. But it's still not fair. Like
No, it's not. And this is exactly how you become adult friends. To circle back to your first point,
That's true.
you get 2 fat guys talking about astronaut food,
and
you're going to be any food really.
Yeah, really, any food.
No, you're right. I think it's kind of remarkable that we became friends. I think both of us were. Well, maybe I was just before 40, and you might have been 40, but late in life.
Yeah.
I think the secret is this kind of our friendship kind of reinforced it for me. But I've heard this a while ago, is that like the reason it's hard to become friends in adulthood and why you become friends with people that you work with generally is that modern life doesn't afford the frequency of hanging out that you need to become a friend. Like that kind of evaporates after college, or like the post-college, like when you're done going out after work to the bars and socializing and stuff like that, which we all get to that point in our lives. You just get to this point where it's like, even if I meet someone who's cool, I just don't have the opportunity to see them the 3, 4, 5 times I need to reinforce like, hey, you're cool enough to be like part of not just like an associate, cast member or whatever. Like you're in on the friend group, And so I feel like comedy, really any hobby, that's why it's so, I think, vital for older people. Not that we're that older, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like once you're in that phase, to pursue a hobby, because it allows you to socialize in a way that I think people don't realize that they slowly, bit by bit, lose as they get older.
Yeah, because when I thought about when I first became a teacher, I was really the only like male around my age in that thing. So everybody else, where there were like younger females, and so I'd go out to happy hour, hang out with the girls.
Sure.
But nothing. And then all of a sudden, the guys that I hung out with, the guys that became part of, were really guys who had just gotten divorced. So it was like a bunch of divorced dads that had kids who were older. And so they didn't have their kids with them all the time. I didn't have kids yet. So they were like being re-entered into the pond, and I was there too.
Yeah, you're sort of like their parole officer.
Like they were all like at least 10, 12 years older than I was. But, I always hung out with older people, so that didn't bother me. But that's my bachelor party was hysterical because it was all like, like 40-year-old men and then like a couple kids from high school that I went to. And so we did the typical things, but they got like my one buddy got a stretch Hummer. And so we loaded it with booze.
Yeah.
And then we were going to go to a club in Reading, a strip club that actually had BYOB.
Women under 20, women under 25, right?
So when we get to this place, we drive, and then obviously all the younger kids were like enamored by all the liquor in the coolers. And so the one guy had to pee. So he like jumped out of the limo, ran around back, peed by the dumpster, and the rest of us are still piling out of the Humvee. And all of a sudden, this woman that looked like Large Marge from Pee-wee goes out, "Where is he?" And she apparently caught him on the cameras. And she's like, "Where is the pisser?" And so, like, she kicked us out. Like, before we even got in, she kicked us out. So we had to load back into the Humvee. And the only other club we could go to wasn't BYOB. And so now everybody's pissed because they thought they had already spent all their money on that. They just had stacks of ones. And we get to the next club, and so Pisser gets out and goes, and they're like, "Okay, we need your ID." He didn't have his ID with him.
Oh, no way.
So then we get to the other class. So now he has to take a cab from Reading to Phoenixville for like $70.
Oh, my God.
I think this is pre-Uber. And yeah, so it was like a nightmare. So he was forever known as Pisser to all my older friends.
Yeah, you don't ruin a night like that. I'm sure he didn't ruin it. I'm sure you guys had fun. But like, yeah, you do that. That's how you earn a nickname. You fuck a night up that badly.
I had a blast, but then on the ride back, like the limo driver kept like repeatedly telling us that if you puke in here, it's like a $200 charge. But like all the older guys were passed out and the younger guys were wasted, and I'm like still ready to go. And like, so I think we went back to like the bar I proposed at, and had a good time. And so it was nice because the older guys were smart. Like there were two guys that were sober. So like one stayed with me at the bar, the other made sure the limo dropped everybody off and then came and picked us up. So like you need that. I think you need people that are
That's me now. That's totally me now.
You know?
I used to be like the biggest party guy. I used to like go crazy. I used to be the guy throwing. Oh well, you know, I never became a pisser. I always had it under control. But I was a party guy, and then I just got old, and now I'm totally the like, okay, you guys have fun. I'm just gonna like, you know, I'm gonna have a jazz cigarette and then babysit everybody from my little semi-sober cloud. But yeah, that's kind of just, I don't know what changed. I just kind of got old. You tell me the story. I used to hear that story and think like lame old guys, and now I'm like, man, those guys got some sleep in.
Yeah,
they got a couple winks during the bachelor party. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting how things. And then I have kids too, but like when I hear people talk, like oftentimes I'll talk to other comedians. I'll be like, and now they're all just starting to have kids,
right?
And so they're like, oh yeah, things are changing and they're different. You're like, you guys get it. I'm like, well, no, actually, I fully had 2 children already that existed for many years before I told my first joke.
Yeah, you had an interesting path into comedy though. You went a different sort of way than many people did, so that's kind of, it helps you, I think, in a lot of ways, but it also kind of sets you out from a lot of the people. Myself too, I didn't get in as late as you, but I got in a little too late for the other comedians drinking after open mics are my social life, which is what happens when you're in your 20s and you're around other people in your 20s in a hobby or career field. You all get together and then you become friends. That's why so many comedians, if your listeners are familiar with the comedy podcast world, it's why so many comedians are friends. We all work together, and a lot of us came up together. So, I think when you start a little later, you still make the friends, but it's a different kind of friendship. It's not that like, it's almost like, you know, we were fighting in Europe and they were in the Pacific and we've come over and now they're like, okay, we respect that you've been doing the thing, but like you are soldiers, but you weren't in the trenches with us, kind of. Yeah. And so you have to kind of earn their respect slowly as like doing the stuff. And then once, you know, you serve with them. God, we're so pretentious about this stuff. You go and you do like a couple shows with them, you bomb or whatever at a bad show, or you kill at a great show. And then all of a sudden then you're like in, you know?
Yeah.
But it is funny because you get that camaraderie, but that we don't have that same camaraderie of like, oh, and then remember that time we all got blacked out at this dive bar.
Yeah.
It's like, but you and me, honestly, a lot of the places when we were going to do shows and stuff, we were doing shows that were pretty far afield. We'd have to get in our car.
Yeah. That's where a lot of the bonding, I think, happens. The driving to Pep's Pub an hour and a half each way. Or, you know, I've gone out to Church of Satire a couple times, which is like 2.5 hours west. So like, yeah, I think that's the bond. And then I think too, like when I think about all the younger comics that people that like they'll call me Papa J, which is like I realize like, oh yeah, it could be their dad, but like I didn't see it that way. I don't know if it's just because I'm around kids who I treat like, you know, young adults, so I'm used to being around people younger than me, and it doesn't faze me so much. But sometimes I don't realize how young some of them are. Like Luke and Otis, I didn't realize how young. Luke's like 25 years old.
Well, he looks horrible. I think that's part of the reason. He looks like he's 45, but like, no, I love Luke. I'm just
that's
playing.
For him.
He is my friend. That is for him.
That's for him.
He is. Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll be talking to him sometimes, and he'll say something, and I'll be like, "Oh, you're like in your mid-20s. Like, I totally forgot. You're like, we're like colleagues, but not peers age-wise.
I was going to graduate high school. I was a senior in high school when he was born. You know, like that's like it is. It's amazing when you think about. So because I heard it's funny you mentioned him in particular because he made some comment on Facebook and like I saw somebody like he's like, oh, back in 1993 you could play Crash Bandicoot and watch something else, and somebody chimed in, and one of his family members was like, yeah, you were playing Sesame Street like in the PS1, and it's just like, oh wow, he's that young. So like sometimes I don't realize it, and it's like fun. But I think people in the comedy game, anyways, like they appreciate like people's hard work too.
Yeah.
Like if they see you out at mics all the time, and even if I can't stay, like I don't get to stay after and drink. Like I don't drink. The only time that ever happens is when I came when you were doing time at Mohegan Sun.
That was fun.
I just was talking with Nick Bruce over at Wisecrackers, and I said that's the only time because you get the weekend there. Yep. You get the room, you get the weekend. And so that's the only time I'm afforded because then I'm literally just walking to the elevator across from the bar and going up to my room. That's the only time I'm afforded the opportunity to stay after, drink, and hang out.
Yeah, it's actually cool. I mean, that's a great club that Nick runs up there, up in the Mohegan Sun Casino up in Wilkes-Barre. But I think one of the cool things that he does that a lot of other places haven't. Now, I haven't worked, clubs all over the country, despite what the hosts say when I tell them to bring me up with that. But the clubs that I've worked, a lot of times it's like you'll hang out in the green room with the other comics. Like you and me are hosting, generally featuring sometimes.
Yep.
But you're a little more successful than me, but I'm not headlining any clubs or anything like that. But when I get to work with people who are, especially like generally they go do their set, we hang out in the green room, and then they go fuck off, live their lives.
Exactly.
They're professionals. They got shit to do. It's not hang out with me. Okay, that's how it works. But I do like how at Wisecrackers, almost always everyone's like, hey, you want to go get a drink? And like I've been lucky enough to work with some comics that I admire as a fan of comedy. So it's been cool to go out. Exactly. I think the weekend you came up, I think it was Sean Donnelly was there, or was it
Andy Fiore?
Andy. It was Andy's a great friend of mine. He's awesome. And it's just like someone that I want to have a drink with and hang out with. But just he's a Comedy Cellar guy. He tours all the time. It's like impossible to actually like sit down with him and hang out. So it's nice sometimes being out because you get to see, you talk about friendship and stuff and being able to hang out with people. Like, I never see that guy unless we're working together. No. But every time we do, it's like an amazing time.
Yeah. Well, was it even, I think Bailey Pope maybe featured
that weekend. Yeah, and Bailey's awesome.
And I met her in Vermont. We did the Vermont Comedy Festival together. And then all of a sudden, boom, now I get to hang out with her again. That was fun because then the weekend that I did after that was with Tyler Rothrock.
Okay, he's great.
He was great.
Yeah, you work with him, right?
Yeah, so I worked with him a bunch, but he lived near there, so he had to actually get home. So he didn't get to hang, but I got to hang with Nick. So it's cool.
Paul does the same thing. Paul Spratt will come out sometimes, but then he's local, so sometimes he won't like hang out.
He's from Scranton, so that makes sense. But yeah, no, so I think the whole friendship thing and later in life is definitely, it makes it hard with the kids. Even today, like Alicia had to come with us to the studio. And hopefully she's out there just doing fine.
She's out there making a hit podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure she
I saw the mic out there. She's doing it.
She actually, it's funny because she takes our family iPad and she just starts recording herself. And it's the most adorable thing ever. She's like, I'm just here on my vlog. And then she like got close to the camera. She's like, I'm abstract. Did you hear me? Abstract. I'm like, what are you talking about? But she was like getting close. She was just mimicking the video she's seeing.
Yeah.
And she's like pointing down like she's telling them to like and subscribe.
That's so funny.
I it's like this generation is so different. I mean, I was pretending to be a Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
They're pretending to be YouTubers.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's wild.
Does she have any inclination towards like performance, seeing you succeed in comedy and performance?
I think it almost seemed like, because she loves listening to the podcasts, like, so whatever one, she's like, oh, are you filming a podcast? Are you filming episode 3 today? Like, 'cause she gets like super hyper focused and then wants to listen to some of them.
Sure.
Which is funny. So I could get a sense from her that she was kind of like maybe looking at some of my videos and mimicking me in a way. So that's also why I'm like kind of happy that I'm like very authentic with how I present myself, I think, and even in my comedy that I think was good, because you've always been helpful with that. I remember telling a joke at a mic up at Peps maybe, and it was about my wife, and it was I forget. I can vaguely remember the joke, but it was something to the effect of where the turn was that I was like cheating on her or something. It was this something thing, and it was me doing like a rule of threes, being like, oh, she's always complaining about, pick up your socks off the floor, like load the dishwasher, stop sleeping with the nanny,
right?
And I remember like you could come up to me and you were like, nobody believes you.
Yeah, it's just like. This reveals too late, Jay.
Yeah.
If you want to be the bad husband kind of comic, you're too wholesome.
Yeah.
It just no, I don't believe it.
So I that was something that I think, because we'd met up, I think after the mic, I'd see you at a mic, And I always loved the energy of that because that's what I want. I want positive stuff around. So when she's seeing that, I know she's seeing like, she's seeing something she can be proud of or she can mimic. But like the other night, she had to come with me to Soul Jules to the open mic.
Oh boy! I thought you said you were keeping her around positivity, Jay.
She went right up to Jeremy Upshur. So.
Oh boy! So she is attracted to the darkness. Yes. She's really into the.
But like we had baseball practice till 6:30, and then signups for 6, mics at 7, and then usually Amanda would meet me at the field and take her and Katie home. But she got a flat tire, so she had to go get it changed. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess you're coming to get chicken fingers and fries. And I had to bribe her. She played a little bit of Miss Pac-Man that he's got there, and then she just took my phone, and she was good in the dining room. Jess, who runs the kitchen there, kept an eye on her. And then I got to run up and do time. But I was like, part of me was like, oh, I wish I could bring her in the room, but at that room you can't. Like when I'm on there, it would be fine. But yeah. So I think it's cool seeing her do some of that stuff. I don't know. I do get nervous because she likes YouTube, and that's something that to me is you can't. But when she's on that device, like you have, so Google has something called Kite, which is like basically the parenting app. So you're like kind of hovering over them, and you can like set just the filters to like what she's allowed to search and age appropriate, and you can like keyword stuff.
Yeah.
So like they do make it easy, I think, to kind of help that because it is.
That stuff's crazy. I babysat my friend's son. They needed me to be there for like 4 hours, right? I'd been staying over for the weekend. They had something to do. And so they ran out. I'm watching their son, Utah. It's a great name for a kid, very random. I'm watching little Utah. He's like a toddler. And, they said, this is going to be easy. We just give him a tablet. He's just going to sit there and chill. And you do your thing in the room. Make sure he doesn't die. Easy. So we're doing that. I'm on my phone. He's on his tablet. I'm kind of tuned out. He's watching Spider-Man or something, I'm kind of tuned out to what he's watching. I'm doing my own thing. I maybe like have my AirPods in or something. Then all of a sudden I hear like this voice coming from the pad, and it's like, you need to like insult the girls because then they'll like want to run to you. And I'm like, what is this? And I pull it out of his hands, and it's like this like pickup artist. And I'm like, how did the algorithm take you from Spider-Man to like how to like denigrate women? Like, this is horrible. And in like 3 videos we got there. And so I was like, okay, hold on. So this might have been pre-parental control or whatever, but I'm glad they have parental control.
I was like, I could totally see how they go from Spider. I mean, there's a lot of guys in basements that want dates that are like Spider-Man, and how do I get a girl?
You know what? You're probably right. It's they're very mutual interest, loving Spider-Man and not knowing.
Yeah, they're down in their parents' basement eating astronaut food. They don't know what's going on. They're just trying to figure it out.
That's right. I was the toddler in the story all along.
Yeah, no.
But no, it's crazy how fast like your YouTube can turn. Like a child on YouTube could be turned towards something you don't want them to see. Yeah. So it's not even like, oh, I trust them not to look at that stuff. It doesn't matter. Like, it can just show up. Yeah. So it's good that they make controls for that.
Yeah, it is, because it can get crazy. Because then, and she's a sponge, so she'll pick up whatever she's hearing and start reusing it. Now she's getting better, but like she used to like curse at school and we'd get in trouble, and then I realized it was because she was hearing me, and that's always the problem,
right?
But yeah, no, I think just in comedy in general, I know for me being more wholesome is sort of what I did because I've been a teacher, and I knew at any given moment anybody could walk into one of my shows. So it's like, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to me like 10 years from now. What kind of jokes am I telling 10 years from now?
Yeah, I don't think that you're necessarily... You don't have the most wholesome like sense of humor and like what you'll laugh at. Like, you'll laugh at some pretty dirty jokes. I mean, you like my comedy.
That's right.
I'm not like Jay Yoder for those of you watching at home. I'm not a very wholesome comic. So you'll laugh at that stuff, but I think that even once you're like, you feel free to tell any joke you want, you're still going to be a wholesome comic. You just can't help it. That's who you are. Like, comedy's about authenticity, and part of the reason why I think you're successful so early in your career is that you never had to struggle with how to be your authentic self on stage. And I think that guy is just nicer than your standard comedian, the person that's drawn to comedy. Like, I think everybody gets into comedy for different reasons. I think there's some like archetypal reasons why people get involved. But I think that, if we were to stick straight to archetypes, I think you're the kind of comic who like, you have this burning passion to do it for so long, and you put it aside for whatever reason. And you finally said, YOLO, let's do it. I can't sit around my whole life waiting. And you're the classic story because, like, you had it in you. You know what I mean? Like, you weren't just like, oh, I want to sing, and then you came out like whatever. Like, you came out like Susan Boyle. You know what I mean? You're like the Susan Boyle of comedy. I say this a lot. And, and now that I think about it, it's like a perfect 1-to-1.
I dreamed a dream.
Yeah, 100%. And so, no, but you had this passion in your heart, and you finally went in to pursue it, and you hit it really hard, and you like did it. You know, there are others like I'm the other archetype. I'm like I can't do anything else. Like if comedy didn't exist, I would just be doing the same thing drunk at the bar.
Yeah.
And then like 2 or 3 people would be listening to me.
Yeah.
So I think then there's other archetypes, you know, but I think that it's like you definitely have. You would be who you were no matter what. Like, if you didn't have the same teacher constraints on you, I think you would still gravitate towards.
Yeah, I'm very low key. Like even as younger, like if there were kids that were doing something more than like drinking, like there were a phase where some of my friends were doing like cocaine. Like, I've never touched the stuff. And one time they
can see that. You were nobody's ever been
guessing. Yeah, nobody's. Yeah,
you're usually up from like 6 a.m. to like 2 a.m. I've never once suspected you're doing cocaine, Jim.
And I just never. Yeah, they would all go upstairs to the bathroom, and I would just stay downstairs. Like, you know, the one time I was like, you know, my moms were nurses, so I don't know if they were like putting stuff in me, but like I had one buddy put creatine in his hand, and he was like, "Hey man, I got this," and it was like a really good friend of mine, so like I smacked it out of his hand and then like smacked him at the same time. And like, but I've always been like that. And I think I am. I think there's a level that I have. Like, even if I were to look up porn, I would have a hard time because like some of the thumbnail pictures are too much for me. You know what I mean? Like, I can't even. I have to like audio my like what I want because I can't be scrolling. It's like too much for me.
Okay.
But like, so I think I am. I think there's limits. I have like what's they call it on the car? A governor. Like, where they have like I think I have a governor.
You're
on
a governor.
Me where like I can only go so far.
They should start calling you that at open mics
The
instead of
governor.
Papiota. Just call you the governor.
The governor. That's good. I like that. No, well, but I'm excited. We're doing a show together coming up. Actually, so a couple days after this airs, we're going to be up in Waverly, New York.
Oh boy,
have you ever been up to Waverly?
No, sir.
So just north of Sarah, Pennsylvania. It's like west of Binghamton.
Okay.
So we'll be road dogging it up there.
That's going to be fun.
Drive.
That's going to be fun.
But we're doing an autism. So it's like an autism fundraiser show. I'm doing one tonight at Soul Jules. But yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, you picked me and Brendan Smith, and we've already had the DM to be like, "Does Jay know something about us that we don't?" Like, well, I've never been diagnosed. Have you? He was like, no, but do you want me to give you a snap diagnosis right now? I was like, do you want me to give you one? Shit, we belong on this show, don't we?
Well, no, I will say Brendan does jokes about it. Like, he has jokes in his set.
About being autistic?
Or at least alluding to it, whether he's not or not. And that aren't like I like trains. Like,
right.
He's
not that kind of, he's a much smarter comic.
And the other two that are like the other guy that's hosting the show has twin boys who are autistic. So it's like one of those things where it doesn't like not every comic has to have. I feel like that.
No, I mean I'm being glib, but honestly, like I would not be. I've never went, but I wouldn't be surprised if I went and I got some kind of a diagnosis. Like it isn't. It's something that my girlfriend now kind of jokes around about because she's like, yeah, I'm sure. Like since it's like a spectrum, I'm sure you're on it somewhere, you know. And I'm just like, okay, but I don't. To me, it's not something. I am so paralyzingly ADHD, and apparently now they think that that's like that's part of the spectrum now. They're starting to include that in, right?
You'll see. There's image. There's a really good graphics out there now that'll kind of show it. Usually, it's like a big circle. They show it, and then like how the distributions towards some of the traits go. But there's one that actually shows here's what ADHD looks like. Here's what autism looks like. I've
seen that chart, yeah.
And then here's one where they have the hybrid, which is what my daughter has, which is the autism and ADHD, which is a challenge because she has to. We finally broke down and started doing meds, and it got weird because the meds made her hyper focus, but then she started imagining imaginary bugs.
Oh.
And she's like, "Are there bugs, Daddy? Are there bugs?" And I'm like, "No, there's no bugs." Like, and then we were worried because we're like, "All right, she's already got enough to deal with. She doesn't need her friend, and she doesn't need her classmates thinking that like."
And also, that's
she
like
has
the classic
imaginary bugs.
That's like the classic crazy person symptom, right? To have like bugs crawling on you and stuff. So I would be like, "What is the medicine doing?" Like, I would immediately.
So we had discontinued it in August after that because we couldn't get the whatever it was originally that she was on that she was doing well with, and it just got discontinued. I literally had to call every CVS pharmacy and ask them individually if they have it, and they would be coy with you. I'm like, dude, you can't go in the system. Like, why do I have to spend the whole day calling every CVS? And now they don't even pick up. Like, you have to leave a message, and then they call you back. And I get it. Like, they're downsizing who has to, like, waste time answering phone calls. But at the same time, I, as a parent, shouldn't have to be doing that in the greatest country in the world.
A pharmacy should take your calls. I feel like that's one of the few places that should still be. You should afford to, especially with what I pay for medicine. I know it's not going to the pharmacist, but like you should be there to take my call. I hate that too. That is, you mentioned it. That's one of the few things like where I really feel like an old man. Like it really steams my clams, Jay, that I have to leave a message like I'm trying to date CVS and they're not really into it. You know what I mean? Hey, I'd really like to get the medicine that I need. You know, like,
and they get to swipe left on if they want to answer us back. Like that just doesn't seem right to
I don't
me.
like that at all.
No, but like so now she's taking. So she's taking, which I think is helpful. But it's like. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky. You don't want to think because even with her, they talk about making friends. Like, you know, I don't know. Friends for her is a different vibe. Like, thankfully, we have her in so many different activities. So she has other kids that she sees at like special needs baseball or soccer. But like, I'll tell you, I'm the most disappointed in Girl Scouts because we have her in mainstream Girl Scouts, and dude, none of the girls even come up and say anything to her.
Really?
And that like, it's sucky.
Yeah.
Like and it's like none of those things. Like I'm not going to be like, let me force your kid to come up and say hi to my kid.
Right.
But like, man, like show a little empathy. Like show something like to include her. Like we'll go out and so whenever there's a field trip, it's just me and her going off by ourselves, which is fine because I would much rather that. But like, yeah, there's a time period where I'm like, oh, I would love for her to have friends in whatever capacity that means for her. And luckily she has her sister and they're really great. And she has some other kids on the team that, like, we'll do play dates or, she has this kid, Zach, she's known since she was a little kid because they've been in stuff together since, like, they were 3.
Oh, that's good. So she has a long-term friend.
So, but it's not a friend like they're not going to go to the coffee shop and hang out. I'll take her over their house. I'll chit-chat with the parents, and then they'll be on iPads, like, back-to-back in the same room.
Modern childhood,
right? So it's a different view, and I think that bothered me for a while, but in the same sense of me getting friends as an adult, you kind of like, we always have ideas in our head of what things are versus what they really are. And once you get to acceptance with whatever is going on, then you're like, oh, okay. I think in the first episode I did here, I talked about this, the 4 Agreements. I don't know if I ever talked about this. It's a book that somebody turned me on to. And basically it's like this whole Toltec like mantra of how society like creates this like channel that it puts us all in, and the only way we could be our true selves is by getting outside of what society wants from us by doing 4 things. It was like be impeccable with your words, so it's like basically don't gossip or don't like say what you mean.
Strike one on me.
2, don't take anything personally.
Okay, well, we can't hit them all. What else have we got?
3, don't make assumptions.
Oh, I'm fucked on the 4th one then, aren't I?
And 4 was always do your best.
Okay, well, I try.
1 out of 4 ain't bad.
Can it be always try your best?
Yeah, it would be above the Mendoza line, but I think though. At the same time, once so I try to apply that. I don't always do it well, but like whenever I find myself having a hard time with something, I just kind of run that checklist. I know the 4th one's always there, but like the first 3,
sure,
like, oh yeah, I am gossiping or I'm complaining.
So
about
easy
something.
to do in comedy, especially because you're surrounded. It's a subjective. You're an artist. You're in a thing where there are objective rewards and goals that can be met, but they're all achieved through subjective means.
Yeah.
So you have these things that you feel you've worked for that you might not be anywhere close to, and then you see people who you feel have worked not nearly as hard as you, and they're getting it, and you really have to temper that, like, it's really got nothing to do with any of that. It's very random, very chaotic. It's very right place, right time, who you know. So it's like, but it can be so easy to be just like scrolling Instagram on a night you don't have a show or something and you're feeling like a little insecure about it.
100%.
It can be so easy to fall into like the first two. You know what I mean?
And everybody does that. Even though I know I'm on the end of like probably people are scrolling seeing me and I've been
me.
on such an upswing.
No, I'm just kidding.
But like there are moments where I'm doing the same thing at like 2 a.m. after that big show that I just posted about because that's the reality of the ups and
just
downs
the way it
of
is.
It's just the way it is, and that's life's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
man, so.
yeah. It's not just in comedy. I just feel like it's very heightened here because
Yeah.
it very rarely in other hobbies or fields do people post flyers of every time they engage.
Yeah.
You know, in like the thing that they do. So it's like you'll see these things and you'll be like, oh man, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a painter can just be like, well, I guess I'll go to my easel and start painting if I really see something that
Inspires
makes me feel one way or another, jealous or inspired or whatever. With comedy, it's like, well, I just got to sit here and wait to get booked again before I can exercise
When's the
this
next
demon.
open mic? Yeah.
So it's like it can be very. It can prey to have those two in practice is very good, and especially as a comedian.
100%. Yeah, man. Do you have anything to plug as we kind of wind down here?
Let's see. No, not really. I just, I'm around. My Instagram is at Danny Daprile. That's DANNYDAPRILE. I post stuff, my shows on Instagram. I've kind of, I had my personal life was kind of crazy last year. A lot of family, saying goodbye to some family members. So I've kind of decelerated, and comedy kind of works on a delay, as you know. So it's like you ask for the shows you're going to be doing in 3 or 4 months. And so I'm kind of in a lull where I started asking about a month ago. So keep eye on my Instagram. I do a bunch of shows. I do the animated comedy show at Animated Brewing in Coatesville. I'd really love if people would come out to that. I think I might be adding Raph. I don't want to break any news that hasn't been minted, but Raph Amir and I are talking about maybe doing something there.
That's right.
Very funny comedian that Jay works with all the time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what I'll be doing. Just animated, doing comedy. You can see me slanging jokes.
That's
I'll be
right.
I'll be at this
April 11th.
Yeah.
We're going to be up in Waverly, New York at the Legacy Lounge. So if you know somebody up in the Binghamton area or up in northern central Pennsylvania, send them our way. We'd love to see them at the Legacy Lounge. So.
That's right, and it's been great. Am I your first guest?
You're our first guest.
I am honored. Thank you so much for having me. You got to start small, and then they'll go like, look, when you have someone successful, and they'll be like, look at where he started, and look at where he is now. So
I just wanted it to be a good flowing conversation that was, we didn't have to put too much effort in because I knew it would be quality. So you delivered. So
thank you.
Yeah. So now let's go get some astronaut food and we'll see if my daughter's still hanging out there.
Astronaut food lunch it is.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, thanks. We'll see you next week.